Thank you for that introduction, Sahil. Hi, everybody. I hope you all are doing well. I'm Naureen, as Sahil mentioned, and I'm from JPMorgan. I've been with the firm for 4 years now. I started off as an intern, then was a full-time software engineer for 2.5 years, and then now I am a data scientist. So the transition was quite intensive, but also very interesting. This is something that I've been wanting to do for a while now. And just a quick check with the audience. Maybe you can like give a thumbs up or anything, right? Like just react. How many of y'all are still in college and are looking for roles in the AI space? Right? We do have some people who are looking for roles in the AI space, right? And how many of y'all are already working but looking for transition? Maybe you can react with a smiley if you are already working and looking for a transition. We don't have that, right? But so we're like all starting off our careers right now. So the idea of today's workshop, let me just share my screen.
For people who have joined in, right, please use your chat box to drop any questions. So once Noreen is done with her presentation, we will be like, start taking up questions as well, right? So please, in the meantime, if you have any questions regarding AI, right, it's the best time to ask anything.
Right. So, starting off, today's presentation or today's workshop would be entirely about how AI products are built in the real world, right? And we're just kind of also clearing the misconceptions that are there in the current media about AI products itself, right? What would be happening in the next 1 hour, 45 minutes, and then we'll open up for questions, is that first we'll be touching upon what makes AI products different. How are they different than normal software, right? Like what is different with them? Then, what are the real world AI products life cycle? What does a complete life cycle of an AI real world product look like? What are the different roles that a AI product team involves? How do they collaborate together, right? And then key tech skills that you would be requiring for your transition in 2026, which is in a couple of days right now. And what are the different kinds of roles that you can look forward to, and you can prepare yourself for in the AI space right now, and then we'll open up for Q&A. Right. The very first thing is that if some of us are already studying data science, and if some of us are already studying machine learning, you understand that machine learning is a subset of AI. Right? Machine learning is only a little part of AI, which is a broader domain. Right? Now, most people think that AI is a model, right? AI is chat GPT. No, it's not. Right now, what is AI? AI is a system in itself. AI is a complete whole um, ecosystem in itself, right? And most people can do a lot of experiments. Most data scientists, most software engineers can build quick POCs, proof of concepts, that things can work at a smaller scale, right? But where do people fail? At what point of time do people find it difficult to move forward? Is when you want to scale your system, right? When you want multiple users, multiple kinds of users to use your system, that's when people feel that it's quite hard. And that's something that we'll be cracking about in our journey today. Right. We will be checking why production is hard. Now, what is production? Production is the environment that your users are actually going to use, right? That environment in where your AI product is going to be deployed to, why that environment is hard. And we will also see why many AI projects fail, right? 85% of AI projects never make it to production. Now, the gap is not technical skill, right? It's understanding systems, it's changing the way you look at AI in itself, right? Now, why system thinking matters, and it's very interesting because our entire audience is starting their career right now. So it's very important that you start developing your mindset in such a way that you are preparing yourself for success, right? That is, start thinking about systems. How do you build systems and not just AI in itself, right? Now, what is an AI product? Recently, if you would have listened to an interview of Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, he mentions that AI is a five-layer cake. Now, he's talking about his business, right? His business is selling his chips. So he mentions about how AI is a five-layer cake. It involves infrastructure, it involves your models, it involves your data chips, and then it involves the infrastructure, the entire infrastructure in which your AI model is getting deployed to. Then it also involves your application layer, and that application layer, which is the tip of the iceberg, is what we're going to talk about, and what that AI product consists of. Like, it's like a double click into what an AI product is. Now, an AI product again is a five-layer cake. It consists of the model, very important. Then the data, again, super important, because without that, we don't have any personalization, we don't have any system based personalizations that we can do, right? Then infrastructure, again, super important. Then user experience is again very important, because if you don't care about the end user who's going to use your product, then there is no point of building a product in itself. Monitoring. Now, as engineers, I feel like every AI specialist should have that engineering mindset in its core, because that kind of gives you that ability to prepare yourself for failure, which in turn helps you in succeeding. So monitoring, right, observing and having that observability aspect to your AI product is super important. You all must have read a lot about evals, right? Evaluating your AI products, that is again super important, and that's something that you need to take care of when you're building your AI product, right? Then, now let's just clear out some misconceptions itself. What is an AI project versus an AI product? Now, the fundamental difference, what is an AI project? It could be a simple Jupyter notebook. It could be a simple script that you write to run and just prove that something can work in a very simple environment, right? That's a small AI project. Um, you have a test set, you have a test data set, you run that script, you run that Jupyter notebook on that test set, and you basically confirm that this particular notion of yours or hypothesis of yours will work. That is your AI project. Now, what is an AI product? Now, AI product is basically a production API or distributed system, right? It is something that is going to be used by an end user. So you need to take care of different aspects while building that AI product, right? You need to maximize reliability, resiliency, and also your business value, because now you all are going to be stepping your foots into different kinds of industries. So you need to take care about what value you're adding with your product. uh, Timeline. AI project would be a one-time experiment or analysis, but an AI product is a continuous operation and improvement. right? Data for AI project is just static and clean data sets. You don't have to worry about some noisy data adding into your input, because this is something that you are defining for your project. But AI product is consists of streaming, noisy, and evolving data. You can never predict what kind of data will be input to your system. So you need to take care of that particular aspect while you are building your product. Failure mode. Now, basically, if you're running an AI project, you can just rerun your cell, rerun your script, adjust some hyperparameters, and make your model work, right? But an AI product needs to have automated fallbacks. You cannot go ahead and rerun your entire application in production environment. You need to have fallback options. If A fails, how do I fall back to B? A plan B, right? You need to have your monitoring in place, you need to have your alerts in place. Now, for an AI project, who are the stakeholders, right? Who are the people involved? It's mostly the data science teams. The data science teams basically evaluate a model or build a model, and they just kind of come up with their own findings and bring it to the engineering team, right? Now, AI product in itself involves a lot of people, right? Involves a lot of stakeholders. One is the engineers themselves, then we have the product team, then we have the legal team, the compliance team, and the end users themselves, right? The super important user is god, they say, and that's what we believe also as technologists. Then, moving forward, right? So I just want to take a pause. Do you have any questions? You can like put them up in the chat and I can look them up.
Anything that you wanted to understand till this slide, right? If you have any questions that, how to, like, build a AI project or product, right?
Yeah.
Anything that you wanted to understand. I think, Noreen, we can, like,
Yeah. Great. We have a lot of experts in the audience already. But feel free to ask any question. Don't think any question is small or big. Feel free to ask questions. This is your forum, right? Okay, let's move on. So the first technical decision, right? Now, y'all are going to be stepping into the industry and y'all are going to be decision makers, right? Now, when you start looking at products, looking at different kinds of problems that people are facing and the different kinds of solutions that you want to build, the first technical decision that you need to make, even before jumping onto the code or the model, I think there is one question. Let me just see. Okay, how to scale the AI project? Like we can make a project by Lovable, but database and scalability and all, how to do that? Ensure how to make it go in the real world. A very good question, Madhav. It shows that you're looking at scaling products already. We will be touching upon that throughout the discussion. If you still have that same question, we can come back on that towards the end, right? So the first technical decision that you need to make even before running onto your code or your model is some of the questions that you need to ask, even if you're an engineer, even if you're a data scientist, even if you're the product manager. Anything that you think needs to be taken care of for the end user's experience, you should start asking those questions, right? And those questions might be technical questions or non-technical questions, but eventually they will lead up to the technical decision that you make, right? For example, latency requirements. How much of time do you think that the user will be okay with to spend on to receive the response from your product, right? That is something that you need to ask very upfront, that what is the latency requirements for you, for your business, right? Cost constraints. Every team will have budget allotted. You need to deploy your product onto some infrastructure, and that infrastructure will cost you some amount. You need to ask what are the cost, what is the budget available, and you need to figure out how much of infrastructure you can avail with that particular budget. How can you manage with that particular budget, right? Then explainability needs, as in, suppose I have a chatbot, suppose I'm developing a chatbot, right? And my chatbot is giving an answer XYZ, right? Is my user okay with that XYZ answer just being answered, or does that user want the sources of data that was used to come to that, to arrive at that answer? That also you need to ask, do we need to have those sources incorporated in our answers? Risk tolerance. Now, some of the industries like finance, health, these are high stake industry. Any wrong answer by your tech product will lead to a lot of cost, a lot of other different kind of problems that your end users will face. Now, you need to ask how much of risk tolerance is allowed with your product, right? um I think we have more questions. Okay. How to make debugging our code easier? AI can create a lot of code in a very short amount of time, but debugging and maintaining the code for a newer updates is requirements for. Right. So Bhavya, so again, so debugging and maintaining and adding code to your existing AI written code, that's also something that we can cover. But the idea is that you do not add any code to your Git unless and until you have reviewed as a human, right? If you're even vibe coding, that's okay, but at the end of the day, you are now going to be an industrial technologist. So each line of code that you're writing is important. So do not go ahead and push any kind of code unless and until you know that it is working and it's going to fit into the system. So you need to start thinking in that direction right now. Debugging the code. Now, again, there are different ways of debugging. For UI, there are different ways of debugging for backend. There are different IDE tools that you can use for debugging in itself. Again, now there are different AI tools that you can use for debugging, like Cursor has its own debug. Then GitHub Copilot, there are ways of debugging. There are ways of prompting to debug. But we can get back on that. Just keeping the time in place. Let's move on to the next slide, and then we'll look at the next set of questions. Um, Real world AI product life cycle, right? Now, what is the life cycle that we spoke about in the beginning? What does a life cycle of a real world AI product look like? Very first thing is your problem framing, right? You define the success metrics. What will cause this product to be called a successful product? Then constraints. What are the things that your product cannot do? And business objectives. What does your business require? Are you going to fulfill that requirement? Those set of things need to be framed in a very technical and very detailed manner in the beginning itself. Next up, we have the data readiness. Now, the data at your hand. What is the data that your organization has? Now, mostly when you're entering a different company, it could be a small scale or or a large scale company. Everyone will have their own data set. Now, you will have to assess that data, assess the quality of that data. Now, assess also the accessibility criteria of that data. How accessible is this data to all my end users? Do I need to let them access all of this data? These questions you need to ask. Labeling data, right? And compliance requirements, because data is very important for your organization and you need to be very careful with that. Model selection. Now, again, the best model will not be the right model for your product, right? You need to think about the different set of properties while selecting the model for your AI product. One is your latency aspect. Are you okay with spending about 1 minute for your response, or does the user need it within seconds? You need to choose a model appropriate with that particular constraint. Then explainability, that your model, will it also give you the sources and citations of where your data is being picked up, where your answer is getting framed from? Add that. And accuracy trade-offs, like there are going to be some trade-offs that you need to start thinking about, that 90% accuracy, can we live with that? You need to start asking these questions and be upfront about it with your business team, your product team, and everybody. Then system integration. Now your entire AI product is going to be an ecosystem, like I mentioned, right? Your UI, your backend, and then your AI bit itself. So now you have to build APIs, pipelines, and interfaces that connect model to the product. Deployment. Now, deployment lifecycle, you will have to take care about that. Now, when you're joining a team, they will have their own deployment lifecycle. They will have their own deployment model. You have to understand that when you get there in the industry, right? Then monitoring and iteration, right? Basically, you are monitoring the kind of results your model is giving, the kind of results your product is giving. Get feedback from the user and see how you can improve that within a next iteration, right? So that is how that real world AI product lifecycle looks like, and that's just not a model development if you look at it, right? Next, now, data is the real bottleneck, right? This is something that we see that organizations are equipped with. They have a lot of data, they have a lot of data sets, but is that data good enough for you to probably train your model? Maybe not, right? So you need to start analyzing that as a data scientist. Now, if we have data scientists in our particular audience, you'll have to start thinking in that direction, right? Data quality issues. See if there are any missing values, incorrect labels. You need to fix these things, right? And you need to not just fix this for one time. It should be a part of a pipeline, a data pipeline, where any kind of input data that gets fed into this pipeline is checked for the quality before moving on to any other step, right? Data drift. Do not expect your input data to be consistent or to be in a stable manner, right? It will always change. You can never ever predict the user's input, right? So you need to be ready. You need to equip your data pipeline or your AI product for any kind of data drift issues, any fallback mechanism. Suppose a user query comes in that what is XYZ, and your AI product is not able to answer that, you have to have a fallback mechanism such that the user experience is not affected, right? Then privacy and compliance. There will be a lot of policies that your company will be adhering to with respect to your AI product. You need to make sure you're in compliance with all of those policies, right? Then labeling changes. Now, getting ground truth is quite expensive, right? Now, we don't know if the organization can afford to spend that much amount on getting that ground truth. So, you need to have workarounds, you need to have strategies to get that data set cleared up and to get that ground truth data, right? And also putting human in the loop. Now, this is a very, very important aspect within your AI product. Even though you're a data scientist and you will not be probably looking at the engineering part of it, but when you're building the data pipeline, you need to make sure that your entire labeling strategy might just fall, might just fail, right? Now, how do you bring the human in the loop in that particular data pipeline is again something that you have to start thinking about in your product, right? So these are the things that you need to take care of. Let's just take a couple of more questions before moving on. Okay. Chatbot finds the best answer correctly. Hi, Rahul. I don't really understand the question, but what I understand is that chatbot is supposed to find the best answer correctly. Yes, that is something that your product will define. Your product team will define what your chatbot has to do, right? And now different chatbots will do different things. Like my chatbot would just be about my time management, right? Someone's chatbot would be only about some finance based questions. So now different products will have their own different requirements. So that is an open ended question. Now, when you get your first job and then when you are building something, we'll know more about it. Now, what do we do in case of inconclusive or bad quality data that cannot be corrected in pre-processing? Do we find an alternative or does it directly affect the feasibility of the project itself? Now, very good question, Kailash. The very first thing that you need to do is you have to bring this about with your stakeholders, right? You have to mention that there is inconsistent data available. Now, if your stakeholders have additional sources of data, they will give it to you. And that is true in most cases. They do not give you the entire data set right in the beginning, right? They will have a lot of data that they keep and we'll be giving you in phase wise distribution. So you first bring it about with your stakeholders. Now, what are the different kinds of possible failures that you see with this inconsistent data? You need to bring that aspect also about, but you should never ever miss add or add any different kind of data to just make that data set correct. Shouldn't do that. Make this a habit that you bring this about with the stakeholders and you will get probably an answer on that as well. um, right. Moving on to the next slide. Now, common beginner mistake, right? Now we're all data scientists here and we're very, very boastful about our model accuracy. And that's all we care about, right? But now we have to change that mindset. Now we're not just data scientists, we are technologists. We are part of an ecosystem that is solving problems, right? Now, um, if some accuracy issue comes, I think the first thing that you would think of is, let me just optimize the model. But that's not the right solution every time, right? You have to see what is causing that particular problem, right? Going down to the root cause analysis. First, you need to see that you have exact and proper monitoring strategy in place, right? Now, there are different ways of monitoring your system. You will have different monitoring solution that your company has invested in. Now, you have to make sure that you're using that particular solution entirely for your product, because you have to understand where that gap is in getting the right answer or getting the correct output for your user, right? Understand that. Now, if something fails in your system, do you have fallback mechanisms? Like we mentioned very early off in the presentation, if plan A fails, do you have a plan B for your project or product, right? So that is something that you need to make sure that happens. In production environments, we have retry mechanisms, right? So if an API call fails, right, we make retry calls about like with spaced out between certain seconds, and then we make sure that we get some answer for that particular API call. If not, the second thing that you need to think of is, how do I make sure the user is unimpacted, or how do I make sure the user is not feeling icky about not getting the right answer, right? That's something that you need to make sure. Then hard coded assumptions, right? Embedding feature. So basically, when you are developing your model, there will be certain thresholds, there will be certain assumptions that you are making while you are coming up with your research and coming up with your model analysis. Now you need to make sure that these are called out for while you put this product into your production environment, and while the end user is using this particular product or this particular solution. Because at the end of the day, they should be aware that this is something that is assumed by the product, and that happens, right? In industry, that happens, that there are some cases where you need to assume a certain possibility, but again, you bring about the human in the loop feature, where you go ahead and ask the user if this is what they're asking for, and if this is what they are particularly finding about. All right. Let me
Um,
just, yeah.
yeah, please. There are a couple of questions.
Yeah. Hi, Garima. First of all, thank you. As of now, I'm a second year. As they say, AI, you must have worked. If you've given me one more chance, please name some. Very good question, Garima. And you're just in your second year of college, which is very nice because you have a lot of time to prepare yourself for the industry. Um, the very first thing is DSA, you will have to crack, right? That DSA round you will have to crack, and you will have to focus on at the very first. But again, for your resume building, right? If you want to get into the AI space, and we will also speak about the different kind of roles that you can look at, right? Now, for the different kind of roles, what does your resume need to look like? We will speak about that, but you need to build your resume in a way such that it's picked up for that particular role, right? And what kind of projects, AI or non-AI, and that's your that's your choice, right? But if you ask me personally, um, the industry is moving towards an era or particular time where every piece of software, every piece of solution, whether that be software, hardware, or anything else, is going to have a layer of AI to it. So it's always good to have that AI experience even before stepping into the industry. So work on some small RAG based projects. We will speak about that. Small RAG based solutions, and I think you'll be good to go with your resume for that. Hello, ma'am. You can call me Naureen. That's okay. Sometimes a particular model works well with the data set we have begun with, and but it's feel another model would be better, or otherwise the model I chose earlier starts to falter in accuracy. The switch in models at this stage of might be very difficult. How do I tackle this? Hi, Priyanka. Um, so very good question. So that's where you as a data scientist need to analyze different models, and different models with different data sets, right? And you should not go ahead and assume that the data set is going to be type A. You have to categorize your data sets into type A, type B, type C, and the more number of possibilities you test your models with is the better, right? And also, every model that you analyze and every data set that you test it against, you need to bring about the pros and cons, right? What are the things that work well with that model, and there will be things that it will not work well with. So you need to bring that aspect as well. Bring that about with the product team, bring that about with your engineering team and your business team, and see what they are okay to have those trade-offs with, right? And that's something that you can do when you are working on a real world project, right? Now, on Garima's question, right? So she was also speaking about, should her projects be AI or non-AI, and what should she focus on because she's on her second year of engineering, right? Now, if you look at a real world team, right, there are different roles that everybody plays, right? Although I'm a data scientist by label, I fundamentally believe that I am an engineer at core, right? Because I believe that I'm building systems and I'm not just building models, right? what are the different kinds of roles that people play, even forgetting about their labels in itself. Now, a data scientist, now, some people can play the role of building models or not even building models. It could even just be evaluating models, evaluating existing models that are available in the industry, right? That is available for use and that's available for production use. That is super important. Production use, right? Evaluating these models and coming up with the analysis, right? And then selecting a model. So your model behavior decision is completely on the data scientist team. Now, Garima, if you want or anybody else in the audience wants to become a data scientist, what do you need to work on? Start working on understanding probably the transformer architecture. There are some great videos available on YouTube by Andre Karpathy, and I am big Andre Karpathy fangirl, right? So his videos on understanding the behind the scenes of ChatGPT, right? Your GPT-4 or GPT-3. At that point of time, it was GPT-3, but he goes ahead and does the behind the scenes analysis of what's happening in that transformer architecture. That is something that you first need to understand because that makes you ready for building these models that are production ready, right? Because they're all based on transformer architecture. The underlying architecture is transformers, right? Attention is all you need, right? Now once you understand that particular bit, what you go ahead and do is you start replicating this particular architecture and create a model of your own, create a Jupyter notebook of your own, publish that on GitHub, add that in your resume, and that in fact becomes a talking point in your interviews, a pickup point for your resume, right? So start doing and thinking in that direction. Software engineers, trust me, software engineers are not going to go out of jobs, although um, the efficiency is going to increase. You have to get very efficient with your development. So you need to start developing APIs. Need to start thinking of system design even at this early stage, right? Even though you're just starting off your career, start thinking of how will you design a RAG based system. If your model is not equipped with certain database or some knowledge source, how are you going to provide that knowledge source to your particular system or to your particular AI model, that those systems then start working on a small RAG project, use MongoDB credits, the free credits that you have, and create vector databases. Understand the nuances of these small bits, right? Then create, start developing AI agents. We will cover that later on, but start thinking in this direction and start building your resume towards that. ML engineer, right? Now, y'all are completely focused on the infrastructure structure for your models, right? How are your models going to be performing at scale? Now, there are good papers, there are good videos on it. Now, you have to understand first the behind the scenes. How do people do that? What is the best infrastructure practice that is happening with ML ops? Understand that, and then build small models and then also build the hypothesis around how you are going to scale that model. Add that project in your resume, right? And then that also becomes a talking point for you and also gets you ready for the industry, right? Again, on the monitoring aspect, understand how there are evals available in the industry, how different companies are performing their evals, right? There are good evals for the eval papers by Google. There are good eval papers even by MongoDB for that matter. How are you evaluating your data set? All of these small questions, right? Start building your resume on that. Then product management, and this is also super interesting space that you can look at in the AI space, right? Where you basically understand how to build products. Now, this is completely on a technical management side, and I am not the right person to probably speak on this, but you need to again look at different industries, different product managers. How are they working on AI products? What are the different questions they've asked? And what are the different resume aspects they are looking for your AI product manager role, right? And there are good companies hiring for this role as well. Now, let me look at any questions. I like three blue, one brown. They explain attention very well, in my opinion. Very nice, Bhavya. If you watch three blue, one brown, you know the nitty gritties of attention is all you need. Ma'am, I am a MERN stack developer and I'm a pre-final year student. If I want to go into the AI field, what path or what technology should I pick now? Very interesting, Rohit. Um, you're a MERN stack developer, so I'm thinking you have expertise or you have experience in building some web applications, right? Now you need to understand how, if you want to get into the AI field, how do you build APIs ready for AI consumption? Now, APIs are just one part of it. Now, in the AI world, models are talking to each other, right? So there is something called as model context protocol, which is a layer on top of your API. Start looking at these technologies, right? And build some small projects on it. Publish them on GitHub and add them to your resume, and that should be good. So, model context protocol is something that you need to look at, and model context protocol you can build with Node as well. So, look at that Node SDK that they have for building MCPs. Right. And also, moving on to the next slide, which is trade-offs in real products. Now, every AI system has involves certain trade-offs, right? Now, we mentioned about how certain systems require a lot of high accuracy and but cannot spend so much. Like it would not um, probably it just wants to scale to probably 1,000 2,000 users, so it becomes a low cost high accuracy project, right? Then there are some projects that require high cost. They need a very big, large scale to cater to, but also high accuracy. Now, specifically in health, in the health industry, right? Um, you need to cater to a lot of audience, but you also need to take care of high accuracy. So you need to start thinking of which industry you're targeting also at this point of time. um, and then again, on the lower bit, right, there are some industries where you have high cost, where you need to scale for a large set of audience, but also low accuracy is good. This is on the research bit. So there are research engineers as well. There are some research engineering internships, research data scientist internships, where you can just go and experiment, and that's your role, right? You don't have to productionize at all. But that is very minute in number. You do not have a lot of roles for that, so you need to be careful about going into that particular field. If you're good to go, then you have to build a very good research background, probably have some papers published, right? And then low cost and low accuracy, right? These are real time chatbots. Like it would probably be used once in a while, but also the accuracy is not very important. And these are small scale chatbots that are okay to be with low accuracy, right? Moving on, considering the time limit, so we spoke about again the core tech skills for AI products, right? Like we also mentioned, Python is important, right? If you're a data scientist, Python is all you know and care about. But also, if you are a software engineer who is targeting to get into the AI space, get your Python basics well, because that will help you build more systems, because most AI systems are moving towards being a Python based system. There are some of these these APIs that are also written in R, but Python is go-to mostly, right? And understanding how to build REST APIs, it's still important, right? Very, very important. Understanding how to build MCPs, that is also very important. As a engineer, then system design. Now, although you're just starting off as a technologist, but start thinking on a higher level. Start thinking about how you're building your system, how you're designing for failure, your latency, your caching mechanism, your load balancing. All of these ideas you need to start getting into your minds, right? Monitoring and debugging. If some problem happens, how are you going to tackle it, right? How are you going to find the root cause of that particular problem? Security awareness, and this is super duper 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 important, right? Like it's a star thing on the slide. You need to take care about how secure your AI system or AI product is. um and irrespective of any industry that you go to, make sure your AI product is secure. Because again, if y'all are starting off, cybersecurity is also a super interesting space that you can get into if you are very into that hacking and understanding the nitty-gritties of how you can secure your system. Then you are good to go to your cybersecurity space as well. But understanding the different kind of attacks that your system is exposed to is super duper important, right? And also the different kind of security protocols that you can use, and your organization will already have some established protocols that they use, but you need to go ahead and do your bit of research, understand the different kind of security protocols available, like SAML. You need to read these, right? You need to understand how does SSO work, how does any kind of one time authentication work, like how does this OTP authentication work. You all must have already implemented that, but understand the behind the scenes of it so that you can get to the protocols very well. Let me take any questions. Yeah, Vanshita, a first year BTech AI and data science students, I wanted to ask, how is AI and data science practically used at JP Morgan in real projects? What core skills should a first year student like me start focusing on from now? What kind of beginner level projects would you recommend to build a strong foundation? How is AI and data science practically used at JP Morgan? It's a very large ended question, Vanshita, but very thank you very much for your curiosity. But although, let me just speak about the space that I work in. I work in the wealth management space. So we manage wealth of high profile, high net worth individuals. And these individuals have their assets in different geographical areas, different kinds of alternative investments that they make, right? Now, what we as a tech solution provide is, there is a lot of data that JP Morgan holds. What we do is we've built an orchestrator, basically a main head, a main AI head, and we've also built some subsystems, right? Subsystems that go and talk to these data sources, and these are RAG pipelines. Now, what the orchestrator does is it will go ahead if the user asks or the investment advisor asks any question to our orchestrator. The orchestrator goes ahead and picks up the specialized domain knowledge that is available in the subdomains, picks it up and then answers the question. Basically, it's a time save for the investment advisor. They don't have to do the research on themselves. They come to us, they ask the question, and they get the data, and then they go to their client. So that's something that we do. What core skills? You should, again, like I mentioned, all of the other core skills that I mentioned in the previous slide, everything you have to work on, and think about actually what kind of beginner level projects. Rag is super important. Different kinds of rags, understand that. If you're in the data science space, also understand the transformer architecture really well. Develop. So Andre Karpati has this one GitHub repository for Nano GPT. right? Go ahead and see that GitHub repository, clone it, and try to build something on top of it. That's something that you can do. Do you so Thank you, Vanshita. Bhavya, do you think AI security could be large field going forward? Security, yes. Yes, Bhavya, I do believe in that, because in our project as well, one of the main blocker was, how do we secure our system? We could not go to production without securing our system, and we needed to get that particular solution into production. So we had to also go and source for some solutions from third party vendors and third party startups. So JPMorgan had to go and speak to these startups who are working on security, super highly into security, right? So that's very important. What is the future of blockchain? um Future of blockchain, that is a completely separate topic in itself, Aryan. But I think with big data sets coming in, and data becoming the currency that we're going to live with, um, blockchain is also something that you can look at, and blockchain is also something that every industry is going to look at, even that be a health, law, or finance in itself. And I might be missing out some industries, but you should also probably touch base upon what is happening in that particular field. Yes, I also want to know about small project of data science. And like I mentioned, go ahead and check Andre Karpathy's GitHub repository on Nano GPT, clone it, and you can build a small bit of additional feature on top of that particular GitHub repository. And that would be a fantastic opportunity for budding data scientists, right? All right. Moving on, and I think we are 4 minutes away from the deadline. Is that okay, Sahil?
Yeah, yeah, we are like, as
Okay.
long as you are available, we are happy to host you.
All right. So we'll quickly finish this up. All right. Agent-based AI systems. Now, what is an AI agent? Sahil, are we allowed to ask questions? Is somebody allowed to answer from the audience?
Yes, they can. I think they cannot unmute. Uh,
Okay, no issues. They can type it on chat,
yes,
right?
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So AI agent, right? Oh, very nice, Rahul. I am also going to ask you back the question. AI agents, you all must have read a lot about it. You must have watched a lot about it. But do you all understand what is an AI agent? Anybody can just answer like in a one-liner. Okay, what do you think is an AI agent? 5 types of agent vary is model based. Okay. All right. I think we have a lot of people in the audience who are already familiar with the word AI agent. But let me tell you, there's a lot of noise about AI agents, right? um, just to clarify, what is an AI agent? And I look at it in a very metaphorical way, right? Now, imagine there is an intern. Now, please do not take this personally, but I think of an AI agent as a bad intern, right? Now, what is a bad intern, right? What is a bad intern? A bad intern is someone who's coming to the organization. All right. They don't have enough knowledge about the organization. When the intern is given a task, very nice. Very nice to see your answers, everybody. AI agent is trained on certain data for a particular work, I guess. It's a system that does tasks based on perception and environment automatically. AI agent can help to quick responses. Very interesting answers. Okay. Let me get back to the bad intern concept that I had. All right. Now, AI agent is a bad intern. Now, an intern goes to an organization. It does not have knowledge and resources about the different kinds of things that the organization is doing. Now, the intern gets some task to do, right? The intern will go ahead and do only what it can do with the knowledge it has and the resources it has at its place. Now, if you want to convert the bad intern to a good intern, what would you do? You would basically add more resources, you would give it more information, and you would make that intern understand about the process in itself to make that bad intern a good intern. So, like I mentioned, an AI agent is a bad intern. It cannot do anything. It's a model. A model cannot do anything apart from just probably what is LLM? It is a text-based prediction model, right? Basically, if I say hi, it can respond with hello. Right. Now, if I go ahead and ask my model that what is the weather looking like tomorrow? Should I carry my umbrella? Um, the model cannot answer that because the model has a knowledge cutoff, right? The model does not know the what the weather is going to be tomorrow, right? Unless and until I provide some API for the model to be able to call, right? And where it can get that weather data, it can basically call that API, get the weather data, analyze the weather data, reason, and tell me whether I can take an umbrella tomorrow or not. Right? So now what am I doing? I'm basically empowering my model with some API or a tool, right? This is the tool that I'm empowering my model with. Now, an AI agent is nothing but a model with a tool, right? So it's an ecosystem of a model with different kind of tools, but also an AI agent consists of memory. Just like an intern, it has a brain, it has a memory. Your agent also has some memory. It will have a long-term memory, short-term memory. It will first go and check in the memory if that data is available. If not, it will go and check if tools are available. If not, it will come back and say, I cannot do that for you. So that's exactly what an AI agent is, right? Now, with the tool calls, there are different ways of calling these tools, right? Now, MCP is where it falls into place in that tool space, right? When you're building tools, you're basically developing MCPs for the AI agent to call those MCPs, right? Now, why orchestration matters? Now, an agent, so now a human a intern is basically coordinating multiple tasks. Same way, an agent will be coordinating multiple tasks at the same time. What is very important when you're building these agents is orchestration, right? So you build specialized tasks or specialized agents that can do specialized tasks. Suppose in my finance industry, probably I'll build a KYC agent who can do only KYC. Then I can build another probably investment research agent, right? Now, when I'm having the orchestration layer, if I'm asking a question to the orchestration layer, the orchestrator will basically pick up which agent it needs to pick up and give back the answer, right? So that's very important. Now agents are using everything. Now you name it, we have an agent for that. So any system on top of which you're adding a model, a capability to think, that becomes an agent because you're basically empowering that model with certain set of tools, right? Chat GPT is also an agent. Claude is an agent. So all of these set of AI tools that we're using, they are agents, right? Now, how do you develop agents? Now, y'all are developers, y'all are technologists, you want to develop agents. So there are different frameworks that are available in the market, right? LangChain, LangGraph, these have been one of the first frameworks available. Now we have Google ADK who's doing really well. So you can look into Google ADK. There is there is a Microsoft AutoGen, then there is again there's an open AI framework. You name it, every company has their framework. But some of the popular ones are LangChain and LangGraph. So if you want to start building agents, if you want to add them into your resume, start looking at building them with LangChain and LangGraph. That's very rudimentary, very bony. So you really understand what you're doing when you're building that agent, right? Then tool based agents. So when you add some tools to your agents, you are basically giving it the capability to do something extra beyond its capability, right? So now when you're developing these tools, start looking at what kind of protocols you can use to develop these tools, right? MCP, the most popular one. You can close your eyes and learn that, right? Learn that particular um, protocol. It's going to help you. Then orchestration. Now, orchestration is very important. How do you orchestrate multiple tasks to complete one major task? Now, that is something that you can look at for the agent design patterns. Now, there are different design patterns like the React pattern and so on, right? So you can go and read these blogs. So this is also a very interesting space and a very heavily worked on space in the industry, and which will help you um, probably stand out with your resume, right? Again, building secure AI systems, we touched upon this. Data privacy, very important. Prompt injection awareness. You need to build guardrails while you're building your AI products, right? You need to make sure you're giving that guardrail to your AI and telling that it might be injected in this way, that way, that way, and you should protect that particular system in a way. Access control, like I mentioned, your company, your organization will have its own access control mechanisms, have its own access control protocols. Learn those, implement those, but more than implementing, learn those. It's very important, right? Logging and audit trails, monitoring. Make sure that you have your monitoring in place. If something goes wrong, you know how to backtrack and get to the root cause, right? That is very, very important. Weather of tomorrow can predict through previous data. Hi Rahul, very nice. So that's time series prediction that you mentioned. But your when you're developing your LLM based applications, which is a heavily used kind of design that is used in the industry right now, your LLM is not going to predict based on the previous data. It will go ahead and say that I do not have data for tomorrow, if you do not give it the API capability to call for tomorrow's data. And Madhav has also replied on AI agent is someone how does work, but is constrained to the limits we have applied on it, like particular API models. Very nice, Madhav. That's exactly what we were discussing about. AI agents are systems that perceive, reason and act to achieve goals. Very nice, Kritika. Can you share something about cloud and DevOps field, Hemant? Yes. So when we spoke about the infrastructure bit, that's where your cloud and DevOps come into place. Having and building those pipelines. So if you're completely interested into that, that is also a space that you can work on. But today we've not covered more on that. We've covered more on how you are developing these AI products in production, right? Next slide, we have what do we monitor in production. We spoke about monitor, right? Now what do you monitor? Monitor the input data drift. Make sure you're monitoring what kind of input is coming into your system, because this will also kind of help you train or help you implement the gaps in your system if you see if there are any gaps, right? Latency and failures, just track for the kind of latency that your every response is taking. Then track for any kind of different failures, that your API failures, your model failures, all of these you need to track. Output quality and feedback, so this is super important, and as an engineer, as a technologist, as a data scientist, you need to care about your users feedback. So get that, make sure your product team is getting that feedback, and make sure you are taking actions on that feedback. Getting feedback is one thing, but taking actions on feedback is another, and which is very important. Yeah, and we've spoken about this already. These are some of the careers, prospective careers that you can have in AI product teams, where we spoke about data scientists, then we spoke about applied ML engineers, we spoke about AI product managers, we've also spoken about ML ops. And platform engineers. So Hemant, this is something that you can focus on if you are into cloud and DevOps itself. uh, Coding is required for that. Not so much, but understanding the platforms available is very important. Understanding the different solutions available in the industry, what your company is using, that is important. Jenkins is important. Yeah. So we come to the end of our workshop or our session, which is, and also we just have some key takeaways. AI products are systems, so do not think of them as just one model development, and think of them as a system. Start thinking of system design. Start thinking of building these systems to solve problems. Collaboration is super important, more than developing algorithms. So think of collaborating with your team. Think of collaborating with different roles that everybody is playing in the team. Think of collaborating with your business, your product, your engineers if you are not an engineer, and understand how you can communicate and collaborate better. Product thinking accelerates careers, right? And this is something that I have learned over a period of time, that even though you're an engineer, even though you're a data scientist, you need to take care of what your user wants and how your user is feeling about your product. And that's not just the product's responsibility. So start asking yourself how you can improve the user experience. And we end at this. We can probably close. Thank. Oh, yeah. How do
Thank
I? Yeah.
thank you so much, Noreen. Right. I believe this is one of the most engaging sessions that we have done in this series, right? A great thanks from our side, right? And the kind of a good thanks to the audience as well, right? The kind of questions, right? And people taking full advantage, and that is why we are doing this, right? You don't on a daily basis get to interact with people from the industry, right, who have the relevant guidance knowledge, right? Because there are a lot of jargons in the industry, people saying x number of things, right, but at the surface level things are very different, and that is why we have experts who can guide us. And it was really really amazing, Noreen. I
Thank
cannot
you.
recall when we bypass our 1 hour limit. In most of the sessions we close it out around 50 55 minutes. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Sahil, for the opportunity. And thank you, everybody. You all were a great audience. Thank you for all the interesting questions you had. And I hope I answered all of them. But all the very best. And hope to see you someday, somewhere on the other side.
Thank you so much, Noreen.
Thank you. Bye bye. Thank you.